Welcome everyone to the SLA Policy Review Committee meeting on Wednesday, July 16th. We are going to do a quick roll call. Stephen Ballinger. Here. Michael Lavario. Here. Megan Joy.
Here.
Megan Joy, for everyone, she wasn't able to be here in person, but we are counting her here as on Zoom. It doesn't count for attendance, but she can still participate in the meeting. And Guillermo Zabiglia is absent at the moment, so we will see if he arrives then. We do have, I had asked specifically Laura Sewell, who has worked with us on some of this in the past. I think she is on her way, so when she's not actually a committee member, but we did ask her to come to help. She has a community perspective. So we're going to go ahead, I think, and get started. For you guys, I have a quick little summary sheet. So in the past two meetings, we've reviewed some of our SLA items, mostly from our website and our guidance and our policies and procedures we had put in place. And we made some minor, most of it was, I would say, editing. It was grammatical. It was minor changes that were making our policies align with the changes in laws, changes in things like the permanent open restaurant program, and some things that the SLA has changed. So we've just made our policies align with that. We haven't made any substantive changes to any of our policies or procedures to this point. So basically the things we've discussed in the past and have kind of finalized, we've cleaned up and consolidated the website. We've updated general policies on the website, which were minor changes, mostly grammatical or things to make it align with the law. We've updated our community board guideline to our community board guidance to liquor license applicants. That will actually continue to be updated as we do make a few more changes. We will then update the policy guidance as well. We updated it to the open restaurants program to reflect the permanent program from what we had previously was the temporary guidelines. And we are updating their guide to the 311 noise complaint research. So a few of the things we've discussed in previous meetings and things that I put together a loose list of things to discuss would be a potential full liquor license admin approval policy, a change to the current administrative approval policy to put some kind of a slightly longer period of time where they agree not to come in and request an upgrade to full liquor. We haven't finalized that, whether it would be 2 years, whether it would be 3 years, we can discuss that later. We want to add some standard stipulations for all applications to make it simpler, such as things that we generally ask for anyways, like no wait lines, food required all hours, no party buses, no pub crawls, no boozy brunches, things like that that we're kind of requiring for every applicant anyways. If we can make that more clear in our guidelines to applicants that that's what's standard, then I think that will be something that'll be easier for us and easier. It'll help at the meetings when people come in and know that's what we're expecting. Discuss one of them. This is a minor thing, but it's something we often end up discussing is clarifying our DJ definition, you know, DJs versus an employee curating a music playlist. Just not that we have to change anything for that, but just to put it in our guidance so that applicants understand if a DJ is someone's a promoted outside person coming in versus an employee curating a digital playlist. Discuss without our guidance, say not policy on whether, you know, 2 a.m. closings, 4 a.m. closings, 12 a.m. closings, just discuss how we want to view our closing hours. Discuss dancing, which is now allowed by the city, but the state still requires it to be added to a licensed method of operation. So just how do we want to handle that? It's not something we can necessarily, well, it is something we could stipulate for. I don't think we want to make it a standard thing. It's something that we should discuss just how we want to handle that if people are asking for dancing or how we want to let them know, just so that they don't think the dancing is allowed and then they get in trouble with SLA. Discuss the petitions. You know, a lot of community boards handle these differently. We require the petitions. If they don't submit petitions, we tell them they either have to withdraw or come back with to deny them for application. We've had situations, we've actually had verified situations where someone's name is on a petition signature that they actually have told us in person here at a meeting that they did not sign that petition. So I personally don't know that I put a whole lot of stock in the petitions. I've also had applicants, they said, and you could tell the writing, they've written down the names of everyone on the building's intercom systems. So again, I don't know if I put a whole lot of stock in petitions. I think it's good because it is something that requires, but we can discuss that, I guess, a little further. The other thing is discussing community outreach. You know, other community boards required to things have posted just on the building, some require on the street, down the street, other things. Again, doesn't have to be a major change. We can discuss. If you think there's some minor change we could make that would be better for everyone. And then also, as we all heard lately, there's been a lot of back and forth about community groups and legitimate community groups versus non-legitimate community groups, which we don't have a definition of any of that. And I don't know if that may be crossing into something that actually a community board saying not an SLA committee, even though we do groups more frequently. It may be something we just need to put some kind of procedure in place, how we view community groups or what we do with community groups, et cetera, versus what board views community groups. So,
Like in terms of like vetting or like,
not vetting, because I don't think any of us want to get into that, but just in terms of, you know, we have one community group accusing another community group of not being legitimate, when that community group is actually one of the biggest hypocrites in the community group we've ever heard. So how do we want to handle that is kind of, you know, I've up to this point, I've been allowing any community group to speak. If they say they're a community group, we're letting them go. But yeah, we have community groups then causing problems and accusing other community groups of either not being in the district or not being legitimate represent. So we can, you know, either our policy needs to be, we have no requirements. Anyone can be a community group. Bozo the Clown could be a community group and we hear him speak on any item we care to. Or we say, you need to be verified, you need to prove to us, which I don't think that's something we want to get into. But, you know, that also. Exactly. So again, I'm not saying we need to change anything on that. It's just something we may want to have a brief discussion about. Maybe we do want to put something in our guidelines that, you know. Anyways, so those are the topics that I've kind of put together, things that we've discussed and a few that I've just thought of come up meetings lately. Does anyone else have any other items that you've thought of as you've been sitting here at these meetings that we need to address, clarify, add something that we don't currently do that we should, or something that we do that we should not?
it's a pretty plus agenda ahead of us. I don't have any.
And again, we don't necessarily have to devise all the policy on this like per se either, but we just kind of could have some discussions on it. Stephen, anything you've experienced in your? And Megan, I know because especially you do have businesses in other community boards and everything else. Is there anything that you've experienced other places that you think would be something we should look into, or vice versa?
No, I gotta say, I've had applications in front of a few different community boards and, you know, I find ours to be the best. Honestly, we're really, sometimes we can get a bad rap, but I think we're very efficient.
Okay.
And I think a lot of other community boards look to us to take the lead. So no, I haven't found any other community board that
Okay.
does it better than us. I just want to say, though, I have about 45 to 50 minutes to be on this call. So if maybe we can just go over what you deem the most important, Clint, first.
Yep.
Okay.
And
thanks.
I think to answer that question, I think it's going to be, one thing that we've all kind of talked about and like there's interest in doing is the admin approval for liquor licenses. That's something that we definitely should work through while you're still here. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, sorry I should have done this in the beginning of the meeting, but I think for those of you that are online, here from the public, I think what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go through the items we were going to discuss, and then at the end, we'll have a public session where it'll allow you to give feedback on everything you've heard, whether you support, against, whether you have anything else that's completely out of what we just discussed. So And Megan, to answer your question, I think hopefully 45, 50 minutes, I think we should be able to get through most of it. Be in a good place by that point. Okay, and Susan, as district manager, is there anything, I know I said this earlier, is there anything else you feel that we?
Well, I added to the list, so this list really incorporates, but I do want to say when we get to community groups, I'm going to give some historical background of why we are where we are.
And that would be helpful. So, okay. Then I think at this point, I think we could go ahead and dive right in and start with the full admin approval of a full liquor license. So the things that we've discussed in previous meetings along these lines were, if we were to do something with the full liquor license with an admin approval, I think we were kind of all in agreement that it would only be applicable to an applicant that, or a location that was previously licensed. So this would not come in for an unlicensed location and apply for a full liquor. It would be only previously full liquor licensed, full liquor license locations. They would come in, and what they would be doing, it would be similar to our admin approval that we have now. It would be a food-based business without live music, should have actually had the steps printed up, but the general admin steps are no live music, no outdoor space, food-based business.
Who's fixed facade?
I don't think I think that's not part of the admin, but it has to be food-based.
Food-based.
And so I think for full liquor, we would do the same thing. It would be a food-based business closing at midnight all nights, no outdoor space. Now, I think that that's one thing we can discuss. Would we want to incorporate the open restaurants program into this? Because I think current admin approvals for beer and wine, they can have outdoor space, correct, Susan? With the open restaurants.
Well, can you just say like what our stipulations state, which is like, and if using outdoor space, agree to have it closed by 10 p.m.
Yes, I think that makes sense.
I think everything we have says outdoor must close by 10.
So it doesn't prohibit outdoor space.
I think what it used to do is say if that location previously had, but it's kind of changed. And now is because since the pandemic, everything has an outdoor space, almost everything.
Okay, so I'm gonna just pull up and I'm gonna read our current beer wine admin approval stipulation, just so we have that for reference. So our current admin approval stipulations are, it will be a full service restaurant, hours closing no later than midnight, that may apply for a sidewalk cafe or outdoor dining under the open restaurants program, close any front or rear facade doors at 10 p.m. All the standard will not have DJs, live music, promoted events, scheduled performances, none of those. And all the rest of them are standard, no pub crawls, party buses. It does say, yeah, it is food-based at the top. And then the rest of the thing, no unlimited drink specials. It does allow happy hours, no wait lines, no staff outside to monitor the sidewalk, host of stipulations. So I think if we were going to do full liquor, I think it would be very similar. We would just add the addition of only a previously licensed location with a full liquor license.
Yeah, and were we going to add something and can't come back to us for later hours?
That is, and we do have currently, I think, in the admin approval for beer and wine, it's 1 year. I think that's something we want to talk about next, but I think we would do something for full liquor where it would be. Go ahead, Susan.
I would say the purpose of this is for businesses that honestly have a business plan that closes at midnight. I believe we are seeing more and more of those because we're getting more upscale restaurants that are not late night restaurants. So I think something like 3 years is what I suggest. This is, first of all, it's a new program. Some people are going to be very concerned about, the full liquor administrative approval. And, I think if it's a business that honestly has a business plan of closing by midnight, I don't think 3 years is a burden.
I think what I'm trying
Oh.
to picture the establishment in my mind. I'm like, Momofuku was a recent applicant they close at midnight. They wanted to pull people and they had like long established that they're like a food-based business. They're never going to come back for later hours. So that's the type of establishment. I'm thinking like, yeah,
And I don't, what we, in the guidance, we reviewed a couple in the last meeting, it wasn't last month, but previous meeting or the original meeting. We did say that some of the language we're going to put in here to describe the ethics process is it's not to be a stepping stone on the way to an additional method of operation or labor hours. We're putting this in place to make it easier for businesses that this is their intended operation. It's not something that they're just working into something. They're planning on operating that. And if 4 or 5 years down the road, they're doing so well that they can change it. But it's not something we want to happen in 1 to 2 years. We want them to come in and operate under this program and continue to operate that way. And I think your example of Momofuku is a perfect one.
One thing we should do is find.
Well, that's
Does it have an active liquor license? in it?
no. We made our language match up with the state. The state considers any break in licensure to then be unlicensed. That's what we did. One of the things we adjusted in the previous is new state guidance, which there's been a couple cases in the last few years. Now, instead of precedent, the state is now saying any break in licensure results in an unlicensed.
like 1 month or 1 year, like
I think if it
You
was
know.
a month, and I think even us, if it was a month or two,
we could be
personally,
flexible.
I feel that that's.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
overlooked that, but anything longer than, a couple months, and the state actually acted on that.
Wow. Okay.
And especially if it used to be if there was for a while, they used with the lack of any intervening. If the last business was licensed and there's no intervening use for a period of 2 years, they would still consider it currently licensed. However, they've now updated their interpretation and it is, their definition is now any break in licensure will result in an unlicensed application. Did that clarify your question? Yeah.
But for the purpose of administrative approval, fast tracking, I think that makes sense.
And I don't think we should be fast tracking stuff that, has been sat there empty for 2 years. I think we probably should take a little more closer look at that. Laura? Oh, well, I did at the beginning. I said that Laura was running things late and I'd asked her to come.
Thank you. So, the one thing, yeah, this makes perfect sense, and especially for residents, the chances of this being denied either by the community board or the liquor authority are slim to none. But the opportunity to meet with the applicants for full liquor is something that's very helpful. It sort of just establishes a relationship before the business is opened, a spirit of cooperation. So we would just ask that still be part of the process that people meet with the Block Association.
So it actually is for the other administrative approval. And we just actually had a case this last month where I think the applicant was recalcitrant to meet, and I contacted them to meet, and they withdrew their application. So there was something going on. But we already do that, and we will facilitate
But
that if
I'm
there's a
wondering,
problem.
though, to Laura's point, we don't require, we used to require to reach out to them. We don't require that at all anymore. I think to Laura's point, for full liquor, I mean, should we require proof that they reached out to the, other than the posting?
I'm gonna disagree because all their information. So at this point, residents are reaching out constantly. And there's no, if you want to reach out to them, reach out to them. Because
But the thing is, if the residents, like, so I'm on the committee. Last month, I actually saw someone's posting before our schedule came out and learned about it that way. But for people, like, if you're walking down the block, if you live on the back of the building, and you never walk down the block. Or the back of that building, you're not gonna know something's there, and if you're not watching the community website, how do you know?
people in CB3 clearly watch the community board website. Who's going to monitor this? The office is, and how you can, there's some place that have groups, some place that don't have groups.
Well, if there's no group, that's fine, but I think if there's either group or any kind of group in the area, all we have to do is they show us the email, they just have to show us an email.
And who's monitoring that? Who's going to say, okay, the beer, wine, I'm not saying they shouldn't contact each other. I think we purposely put all the information on, and if a resident wants to contact, they should.
But the president.
That's what I think. Sorry to interrupt. I'm just wondering logistically how much more work that's going to be to monitor when did they meet, like how.
But I agree, I know that's more work, but the problem is the applicant knows they're coming in. Residents, if they don't have a posting on a closed storefront, how do they know something's coming to even look at the community board website?
Because they do, they check the community board
Not-
website.
Active people do.
And those are the ones
Yeah,
that are,
I do think the
They're to-
resident, sorry, I think the community board groups that you're concerned about
yes,
are the ones that
yes.
the ones that keep an eye on the agenda and would be aware of the fact that it's opening.
Because we're not talking about residents. We're only talking about the community groups. They do
Exactly.
monitor, and, having one set of rules for one thing and one set of rules for something else is impossible.
Under community out, I was proposing we change it.
Well,
Oh, you're against that.
well, so we've had we used to have that and we stopped for a reason.
Yeah.
When they're required to, they started calling the office. Even now, they occasionally say, what about this group? And we just say whatever it says on the website. But they make mistakes. I have community groups responding, hey, we're not the P, you reached out to us. So it's not even that they're not trying. There's a lot of effort that is not necessarily black and white. I do think this is what community groups do. That's why most of them have formed.
Community boards, though, they require posting more than just on the storefront.
No, well, CB2 goes out and does it themselves.
But you could require the applicant to post it on each end of the block or something else. I mean, it could be more than just the storefront. And that's something I was gonna discuss under outreach.
Well, a lot of it's illegal. You can't put it on a land post. You can't put it on any city
Sure.
property.
Communication
You can't put it on private property.
So I was just gonna say, I do appreciate getting the email. And sometimes it does happen way before a posting. So requiring, I understand, is burdensome on the back end, but to strongly encourage, I don't see what harm there is in that. And yeah, and then the good operators will do it and the sloppy ones will not, right?
And usually what I end up doing, and what done this is, when we see something in some area, I've sent emails to people I haven't heard from and they didn't know about. Kate and Judy, they're very active. I think one time I sent something that I haven't heard anything from you, they didn't know about it. So I'm not confident in people seeking things. I don't know how to solve that, but anyways. So I think what we've kind of come to is, that was a concern for licenses, the admin approval, that there be communication with the community groups or something, which we would use the same language as we currently have for our admin approval and for our regular licenses, that, you're strongly encouraged to reach out to the restaurants, or to the residents in the community group, but not gonna require it. And they're gonna listen to that like they do. I mean, I feel like we're failing there, but I don't have the time and energy to make up another proposal now, so. Does everyone else have any other suggestions? They would make them go better.
Can I just ask a question of, Steve and Megan, as bar owners, proprietors? 3 years seems like a long time to me, but I understand, it's different, the type of business model that it's very specific. Is 3 years an appropriate length? Or should go shorter, maybe longer? But how do you feel about the 3 years?
3 years from. So. Often first. Community as a process. That there. That goes. Here. And that. 8 months. Be able to open time for these. 10 or 11 months. I think that's 4 years right there. So I advocate for 2.
But I is, and I've seen this, and we've seen this with many applicants, you should with the anticipation of changing the business in 2 years.
I also think
Because if you have a well thought out, whether it's to be a cocktail lounge, whether it's to be a restaurant, if you're coming in and something needs to be changed in 2 years, I'm confident that you had a well thought out. business plan. Okay.
So we actually do in our community now have more restaurants. And again, they're, more expensive ones that do close by 12 or even earlier. Those are the kinds of businesses that we're offering this to. If their business model and is really to close by 12, what does it matter if it's 3 years or 10 years? That's their business model and that's what they're intending to do. This isn't just a bar that may want to stay open an hour later.
We don't want it to be a stepping.
Yeah.
stone.
The other people can come.
On.
The other people, if they don't want to commit that, all they have to do is come to the committee.
So yeah, that's the other thing. We're not saying that they can't do it. They just don't get the admin process. So that's why I feel like, I don't know, maybe you haven't noticed if you haven't been on long, but I will say we are getting on the average 2 to 3 minimum upgrades every month. We used to not get that many upgrades, really coming for the upgrade, and most of them have gone through the admin process. And that's so to me, I feel like that's a little, they come through, the office does all the work which the office does a little more work for an admin approval than they do for a regular. So they do that, and then as soon as they hit their year, they're coming in and then we have to hear them again. If we would have just heard them once in the beginning, we could have saved everyone more time. That's kind of my thought on it, and I'm open if anyone has suggestions.
I'm so sorry, it's noisy, but my only question is, will the SLA have any issue with the 3 years? Will they kind of consider that like almost a moratorium?
I don't think so, because we're not, they don't, the thing is, if the applicant had to accept this process, I think that'd be different. They're choosing to agree to that, just like any of our stipulations. I don't think the SLA would have a problem with that.
Because anybody has the option of coming to the committee and getting their license and then asking for an upgrade in 6 months.
Yeah.
We're not telling them, we're not restricting them in any
Okay.
way. We're only saying, and I want to make a point about the admin. It is a lot more work for the office because we not only do all the work in the office, we also write the resolutions and everything else. We're doing this so that the committee doesn't have to meet until 12 o'clock like they used to. And and the other reason is that it's a carrot to encourage people to close earlier.
So I do understand your point, Stephen, and I don't know, it is, yes, that it could end up being, if we make it 3 years, it could end up being 4 years, so they'd be able to make any changes, but they do us regularly without the admin process. And say, we're gonna open this way, and then, we're gonna be open for a year, we probably will want to make some changes. I would rather them be upfront with us and say that's what they want to do than come in and say, I intend on operating this way, and a year later, change.
Then I don't know how we. You know. Things to be like, give you what, you get approved. And then. One AM, table. Like,
I mean, we can. I can read what the initial language is for our current admin.
Yeah, you could put it in, you just put it in,
In the-
you put it in the guidelines and in the, so the way that people are invited to apply, if they send us right now a beer wine, we send them an email saying, if you plan to close by 12, you may choose to do this process. So it's our initial email. It would have to be, but we would then, I guess, be sending that to everybody. Our new process is,
Yeah.
and you may choose to do this. But I also want to say, it's not a question necessarily of being a good operator or a bad operator. You have good operators that are open till 4, and we've had problem ones that close at 12. It's the operation of the business that has people on the street till 4 a.m. It's not a reflection of someone being good or bad operator. It's dealing with late hour noise.
So that being said, I think that the point on the table was what time frame we want to leave for this. Is it, are we comfortable with saying 2? We're comfortable saying 3?
I would add.
So the other thing that I was going to talk about, which I didn't specifically spell out on this list, is we also need to start looking at how we review applications that come in for an upgrade that was for an admin. Why are they upgrading, or why are they changing? Whether it's beer and wine and they want to come in for an upgrade after their year, why are you doing this? Why is it? And same with someone that's full liquor that said they were going to be a full service restaurant and they were going to be open till 12. Is the reason they're coming because they want to just stay open 1 hour later to 1 a.m. or do they want to stay open till 4 a.m. and then that changes they applied for in the beginning? I think that's the second part of this is whatever time limit we put on it, when someone comes to us, do we want to view that as a brand new application, basically, and say, okay, your time limit can upgrade you, or do we want to have slightly more strict set of standards that someone who came with an admin approval, we're going to look at it more closely than we would someone who just applies for a regular.
Well, Megan, the last time we talked about this, maybe Megan can repeat what she said. She thought there was a certain period of time where, you know, like an applicant can kind of suffer through 1 year with the intention of upgrading, which is not at all the purpose of this. But what did you say before, Megan? Was it 2 years or more that you said if we lengthened it, we'd get people who really intended to operate that way?
Right. I mean, I think there's a certain sort of like well-funded applicants that can, you know, that can look at that and be like, hey, we can get through a year. We can, you know, fund ourselves through a year until we can get in front of that community board again. So in my opinion, I think it should be at least 2 years before they go for an upgrade. That's the thing.
So what was your thought, Megan? Do you think, I know Steve said he was leaning toward 2, Mike was leaning toward 2 years. What was your thought on a time frame?
Sorry, guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, my thought process was that there are certain well-funded applicants that could probably suffer through a year, or they can fund themselves for a year until they can get in front of the community board and ask for later hours. So I think it should be at least 2 years that they're allowed to come back for an extension of hours.
Yeah, and I think we're kind of all on the same page that at a minimum of 2 years. Stephen and Michael both kind of feel that maybe it shouldn't be more than 2 years. What's your feeling on that?
I'm okay with it not being more than 2 years. You're not going to I think as an operator, you're not going to be like, oh, I can make it for 2 years is a long time. Like if your actual plan is to be open later and to have that sort of business, you're not going to survive for 2 years. And if you do survive for 2 years, maybe you don't need it after all. So I think 2 years is enough.
Peter means close.
Oh, it's from, it's terms of operation. We're talking about. Start operating. But so like everything before that, I mean, I know it matters from a business perspective, but
No, I
And
know.
yeah, like,
It's
because we don't, that doesn't show anything about how you're operating or what you're doing.
that's a two business animal to bank.
And maybe that's more of what we want. We want it to be more of something that someone isn't gonna look at and say, like Megan was just describing, I can make it through those. I can't make it 3 years. I could make it 3 years. And maybe, I don't know. It sounds like right now that everyone is kind of okay with 2 years. Something I can quit, and I think if we see people coming in, I mean, we'll still be on the board at that point, but if we see people down the road coming in, I think it's something to change. I have a big problem with everyone we're seeing now coming in with beer and wine, coming in at exactly 12 months, or they're coming in at 11 months for an upgrade. They're applying at 11 months, but they know it'll be 12 months by the time we hear them, and that's not in the admin approval process. And I think that's what we want to steer people away from. So I think we've kind of resolved everything, that we're all on the same page for full of, right? It's for an admin approval process with what we just discussed. The next thing I think we would move to is current approval process. Right now, I think it's 18 months, is it not, Susan? The admin approval is taking back for 18 months. Is it 1 year? I thought it was changed. I thought it was changed in October of 2022 to being. But it does say, no, but I mean, while I wasn't on the board, I thought it was proposed to make a change to 18 months, but it's not on the current. I'm looking at a current one now, and it's not. Right now, it still says 1 year for current admin approval process.
So we're gonna leave beer.
No, I think beer and wine should be extended as well.
Not
So should beer and wine be extended to 2, or how do we feel about making beer and wine even longer?
I mean, if we're gonna. Yeah.
So yeah, beer and wine has been with previous license fee. I don't think anyone's proposing to change that. I don't think we should change that. I think that should stay even previously on license. Fine. You're still doing admin approval process, but I think maybe we should make it a little bit longer, and maybe we try 2 years, or maybe we make it more of a 3-year thing, and we would really get the people really only want to operate beer and wine till midnight.
I'm not opposed.
But I think definitely, I feel we definitely should extend it to. I guess my question is, does anyone think we should extend that to 3? Because that's where we see more. I feel like that's where we see more people coming in and trying it out, and then being like, oh yeah, I really want full liquor, but I'm just gonna start off with it's easy.
And it's saying we want to offer our customers, a different variety of blends of cocktails that they're requesting anyway. That's their line. Yeah.
And I don't know, or what's everyone's thought? We should do 2 years? Well,
I think we can always come back and change it. Because.
well, we can, let's be honest, in 3 years, or are any of us gonna be here? Who knows?
I mean, I'm willing.
2 years. Both admin approvals would be 2 years.
Say having, even though they're different, having that consistency helps, because you have lawyers that are doing one thing for one person, another thing for another person. And I do think as simple and consistent we can make it, the better.
I agree. Okay, so one other thing kind of that I touched on a little bit earlier. And we can think about this and it can be something we can address later as well. Do we feel we need to have any other guidance to applicants when they are applying for the admin approval process? If you're looking at or liquor admin about, you know, after your 2 years up, you have the right to beer and wine upgrade, or if you're full liquor, change some of your, whether it's hours or operation. We want some language in there along the lines of, you know, this process is intended to encourage restaurants that are low impact, a food service business that is low impact, you know, make that their permanent method of operation, not a stepping stone to another method of operation that you really intend your business to be. If you intend your business to be something down, we would rather you come to us. That makes it seem well thought out plan as opposed to a lifeline you're trying down the road when you're losing money. So does it make sense where I was going with that? Does it make sense to say, based on that statement and or polished statement, of course, based on that statement, you know, when you do come for an upgrade from whatever we're administratively approved for, there will be not better word right now, stricter, a more rigorous review of your application and your intent on upgrading. Because, you know, we do want to make it clear, like, if you have other plans, to us in the beginning with that. Don't tell us one thing and then be your business from the beginning. And again, I'll put together the language and we can review it afterwards before anything would be approved, but does everyone just agree that it's okay that we have a statement saying, kind of warning them, like, don't try to use this as an easy way in without coming to the. Okay, so I will kind of draft some of that and we can have it for our next meeting. Anyone else have any other things on either admin approval?
You know, need some help with some scary lawyer language in that one.
There you go. Give me the scary lawyer language, Michael. This next one is pretty simple, I think. We kind of discussed adding some standard regulations. So what we would do, I think we would, you know, phrase it differently on our questionnaire, on our stipulation form, so that it's basically, and for lack of a better term right now, these are our non-negotiables, and it would be the things like, you know, no wait lines, available all hours, no party about pub crawl or boozy brunches, those kind of things. Just, I mean, an applicant could still request something different. They could still request some of that, but we are basically saying, getting under our guidance, look, this is something we have problems with. We can't say not to ask for it, but these are things that we really don't want in our district. Everyone okay with making that, guys?
I think that would help because sometimes people they think they can keep negotiating.
Yeah.
And if you say, these are what we'll negotiate on, these are the ones we won't. And because even when they sign them, again, this week, we had someone said, I would never have signed anything saying no wait lines. And I said, I just watched the video and it was presented very clearly.
Mine gets enough out of the meeting. He emailed when we sent him the steps. It was
That guy on Fifth Street with the cocktail bar,
cocktail bar from Kwame.
Oh,
the one who said he was reservation only, he didn't want to sign the steps now because of the wait lines.
And I went back and watched the video and it was very clear. I mean, first we talked about it in the beginning and we read the steps.
And accused us of changing it afterward in writing. He accused us in writing.
No, this is on Monday night. The district, Kwame, it was the burger joint.
And then he finally watched it again. That's what I'm saying. It just you're not adding anything. You're not changing anything. All you're doing is separating them and saying these are standard for everyone in the world.
Yeah, and on a residential side street. On a residential side street, which I would give some thought about, but
Why would anyone with reservations want to wait line for what a 24 people restaurant?
so I think just by making these count, there are other community boards, like, I think, and there's one community board I'm pretty sure that has basically put a moratorium in licenses, not necessarily on for it.
No, two,
Oh.
TB2.
No. Yeah, I think, and I could be, they can skewer me, for this, but I'm pretty sure it's basically. I don't think they put it in writing in a policy of not to get any for it. They're sticking to that, and again, how well that holds up the state, I don't know. I'm not saying we should. I think with these things, we can at least put, these are things that we're looking for and that we. That are,
But we're not even doing anything different. It's just the stuff that's already on there, just separating it out.
And in our guidance, because there is the information to send out originally, that's our guidance to applicants. We can make that more clear in our guidance. These are the things we feel very strong. That we have every applicant. Okay. Yes. This next one is a really easy one, I think. It's just, clarifying, and this also would be, I don't think we need to change this necessarily in our guidance, or I mean, in our stipulation form or our questionnaire, but I think in our guidance, we should put these are two, for DJ, our definition of DJ is an outside voter, whatever. Because how often do we have, when they've checked with DJ, when they ask them about, they say, it's going to be an employee, the playlist. So I think person there. Yeah. I think just for E to help maybe move the applications a little smoother, we put that in our guidance that our definition of a DJ is an outside promoter coming in to, break.
And level.
And energy, yeah.
I would think about a person dedicated to playing music and responding to the crowd. Outside promoter is a really high level and there's way too much wiggle room.
They could have an employee that they hire a person. So its primary job responsibility is
Yeah.
change and respond to the crowd. That's something. Yeah. Yes. Third party promote that. I'm just hoping to clarify the DJ thing so that we don't often have people saying they want DJ. Then when we describe what we consider DJ, they say, oh no, we're just gonna have an employee that curates a playlist.
That's the most. That,
I think we should do the same thing with a promoter, saying, putting it on your social media is not a third party promoter.
Yes.
That's like hella fun. Yeah. We went into the whole thing about the third party holders.
So I'll
Then
just
it's-
draft some language quickly and we can then review it at our next meeting. But just again, not me, that's not changing anything we're doing, it's just clarifying in our guidance to the applicants what they personally receive it. This next one is, and again, I'm bringing this up, we don't necessarily have to make any decision on this tonight, but as I said, there's some community boards that I think are basically saying they're not going to grant any foreign licenses at all. Do we want to, and I'm not advocating at all that we make something that strong of a statement, but do we want to start looking at more closely some other clarifications of where we would consider 4M licenses, where we consider 2M licenses, where we consider one, do we want to have guidance for us as well as the applicants about closing it?
Maybe I hadn't thought about this, but maybe you would want to say on residential side streets that currently do not have a 4 AM license, that they, we don't want to consider it, but that they would be more considered on commercial streets such as Bowery and Houston.
I mean, yeah, I think definitely something general like that, and I think maybe like the residential side streets where we're currently licensed to whatever. I think it's good guidelines.
sorry. I think part of it is any bar. He can. What?
So you're suggesting holding true, no matter where it is, holding true to what was the hour previously there.
Correct.
And not, so, someone's coming in a 2 a.m. license location and they're asking for your suggestion, stick to the 2 a.m. and not be granting any additional.
Correct. That's the-
And that was what I was saying, something that's not currently,
But you're saying-
currently.
you were saying, on residential, I think, are you saying kind of,
I'm not specifying.
he's not limiting it to an area, we're maybe on the avenues. And again, this isn't, I don't think this is gonna be something that's gonna be a policy we're gonna adhere to. I think it's gonna be guidance, which will, and guidance can be, guidance can be interpreted depending on each specific case.
I think it's better to have strong, this is what we adhere to, because otherwise we all know we have certain people. Some people really respect it and others consider it a challenge to negotiate. And so the people who are least likely to respect it are the ones who are going to get the 4 a.m. in previously unlicensed spot. And I think you should either do it and be the same for everyone, or don't do it.
But I don't think, but we can't, I don't know, but I don't think, yes, like what I'm told, if we do a blanket. If we said,
But they're going to look at it individually. And if you say, and I'm not sure if you say this is a previous in a place with that's oversaturated to have the same or less impact, I think they would be very supportive.
oh,
Yeah, I think they'd be very supportive. You got to do it or not do it.
and I agree, I do, because if it's boshy, then then there's no consistency, people don't know. So, okay. Well, I will, wrap up some language for that as well. Did Megan drop off? I think I was actually just gonna ask her if she had a thought of it. Probably about time she was probably, okay, which is fine. Otherwise, the next question I had was dance, and Stephen and I had a brief conversation, not exactly about, he had a point to add about this. Right now, we don't have anything on our, I don't even think it's even on our questionnaire, is it? I don't on our questionnaire or our stipulation, we don't generally address it. City is now legalized dancing, however, state still requires, if they are going to have dancing, even though it's allowed by the state requires them to put that on their license, their application to the SLA for their license. It's on their 30-day notice, and then it has to be on. Is it a questionnaire?
Yeah, there is,
Is it?
but.
Okay. Not a, no.
It's really been a very scary process for us. Scary. So, I can, I.
That's all, change, that's.
I had the same conversation with Andrew Ridgey. He said they're just afraid to put it down. And the thing is, in CB3, there's dancing in probably almost every place, but everybody knows they can get away with it. So if it's not a problem, nobody knows about it. The only way is sometimes when you're looking, if there's a problem with a place, you start looking at their Instagram. They say, "Oh, isn't that interesting?" And then you do say they're not operating with their method of operation, which is worse than putting it down. We used to, so when we had the cabaret laws, we used to recommend approval all the time.
There, I've encountered several things where either it was being sold or transferred, or they were changing something on license that permitted, so we have done it, it's just, I think where you're saying it's an issue is, and this is how I feel about it, if someone's coming in and want to be a legitimate restaurant, you really aren't gonna have dancing in a legitimate. A bar could easily possibly have people could be standing or just dancing, so if someone's coming in and telling us they're a bar, whatever. We can't spot. I think it could be something that could be, but a restaurant coming in and they're checking the box for dancing, it's gonna be like. No,
So what they,
but that's another function, yeah.
fine. Yeah. And that thing, yeah, but what am I worried, like, you know, it. Way harder. They're already getting a little bit of a practice right now. Policy, you know, it's putting good for the law. I personally think. A lot of people. And, you know, that on there.
Or, I mean, honestly, I don't necessarily feel. Or speak to this more. I don't feel that dancing is really the biggest problem in our, just like, it's not. So maybe it's something we just don't have to do, we just leave it in. What we should do, and we did talk about this on our website. We did already revise the language that we currently have about dancing and just say that even though the city does permit dancing in all districts, the SLA still requires you to do your method of operation if you want to have dancing, and we leave it at that.
And maybe we want to include the box for dancing on the stipulations. I mean, it's on. I mean, it's on the questionnaire, so we're already asking.
And we very, very discussed. I know.
Yeah.
That's. I admit to it.
Right. So I just want to bring up, and please, I'm the queen of dancing, not anti-dancing at all. But there are a couple of restaurants, I can think of two on North Avenue A right now, that came before the community board as restaurants. And they have full kitchens, they serve delicious brunch, they serve dinner. But around 9 o'clock on the weekends, they absolutely turn into a club. There's a disco ball, they're pouring, shots in people's mouths from the bar. And it's a very different vibe than what they were approved for. And at least one of those locations, I believe would have been for that use. And they've been upfront about it. So how can that be addressed? Because that it is actually a problem. And nobody complains that people are dancing. People make noise complaints because the music gets jacked up. And Susan has to spend like 2 weeks going to somebody's home. Community board also can. And the people that are going to get in trouble for doing this are the ones that are causing a problem. So it is a very black and white, easy thing to address.
So I think kind of what we've decided is to leave it as existing, or you have it, we do have it. Maybe it's something that it is on the questionnaire, and now that I think it is, now that you say that, maybe it's something we just need to remember to, especially if it comes late, we think it is has the ability to change into something like this. Maybe it's something we just need to discuss when we go through their application. And something that we're afraid of becoming a problem, we put it in stipulation at the bottom, the blank space we have.
Maybe an idea here, maybe including in the reso, if we anticipate dancing from their questionnaire, we could just put that in the resolution.
If it's,
I think.
In the future.
Fetch application and.
see it then, the stipulation.
Have to do that. If they don't put it down, they can't do it.
Well, they don't put it on their layout.
No, it's also on ours. No.
It's not on our.
Oh,
That's what he's saying, we would add it if we add it to.
but you shouldn't do, then you're making a judgment about people. To put it on for everyone, or you say no dancing for everyone, or you don't do it for anyone. You can't start judging who's gonna not adhere and who's not. I don't think or you could just have a no dancing box like you have, yeah, like you have DJ, no DJs, no this, no that.
DJs, live music, good events, we have.
Yeah, just put a little box with no dancing.
Not even no dancing, would either they check off yes or no.
Yeah.
Whichever they.
Right. Just put a little, one more little box.
You think we shouldn't have?
I'm leaning towards it as is right now. I could see this month as something required. Well, you know, we might have some dancing on a Friday, you know, or something like that.
Then check it.
Yeah,
Then
but
check dancing.
well, I can leave this as is.
Because it is
Just
something we
discuss it
haven't,
further.
it is something we
Think
don't
about
even
this.
discuss and deal with right now, but. Because it is, and that's a holdover from when it wasn't allowed. Now that it is allowed, maybe we should be discussing.
I think if we give it the operator, maybe be more friendly on our end. More, welcoming. Something, want dancing.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it just depends on the place. Like I said, if a restaurant tells me they want to, I think it's possible to know what they intend to do.
Oh.
Say one of the places that Laura is not mentioning, it isn't just dancing, it's been a history, a pattern of non-compliance and violating stipulations.
Brunches there.
They're still doing that?
Still out.
So it's either you're generally a good operator and you follow your stipulations, or you're not. And it's not just dancing, it's more often things other than dancing.
Not just, I mean, yeah.
But it's, so most of it is, yes, and it's like impossible. People are yelling at me all the time because it's not always a priority I can make to respond to that stuff.
So maybe what we do is.
It's extremely burdensome. And particularly with what's going on in our world and how busy our board is, to be spending so much time, because the government, whether it be city or state, does not monitor their own licenses and their own permits, which puts it all on the community board and residents. And we just don't have the resources to do that. You know, it's very nice to say, well, agencies do it all the time. Oh, it's an enforcement issue. Yeah, but nobody enforces. The police, I have in writing, the police have been instructed not to enforce, but with giving summonses. It's in writing, it's a policy. And that has created an atmosphere of anything goes anytime.
It is on a question here. Yeah, that's on the state app. That's the 30-day notice. That's on the 30-day notice to the state. That's not a question here. So.
Do you want to put it on our questionnaire?
On the stipulation, let's put it on the questionnaire in the same section here where it talks about. It would be in the section where it says, type of music, TVs, monitors, that we just put in there to 10 pages. And we leave it on the questionnaire, and then if they're unchecked, we can then discuss it further. Yeah.
From your act, we said.
Well, and they should be. I mean, it's.
Because of.
Should be scared because they're too many people are signing stuff and not adhering to it.
Want to do something else, but they're trying to slide by it, and they shouldn't be scared of doing that because that's gonna be a problem.
I mean, that's the one thing I hate is when people lie and they just go in. And I'm certainly not everybody. It's the people we're paying attention to are the ones that don't. But because we have a huge number of licenses and way too big a percentage of people don't, you know, don't comply with what they said they're going to do. That's the problem.
Steven has to leave in a couple minutes and we only have a couple other things. Yes, we have a couple things which we pretty much already started touching on this stuff at the beginning of the meeting. The petition, I think we leave the petitions as they are. I have an issue with them, but I don't have a better suggestion or solution at the moment.
Yeah,
Oh, and I agree with that, but
it's notification.
Notification, but I don't know, like you said, I don't really have a lot of stock.
If people in the building right above sign
yeah, but.
that,
When the building came and said it, someone wrote all of our names in the building and I live here, I did not put my name.
that's true.
That's the problem. They look at the names on the buzzers, just write them in, so. You know, they have verified, like, you know, we make them start with their phone number and then they are you calling people to verify. No, I wasn't suggesting that, I'm just saying, I mean, that's why I go with the stock, but I agree, and I think. That at least is something that does add to the post, people are collecting petition signatures, but what we do need to do, this is something that we just started enforcing. I think we need to make petitions be due. A week, at least they need to be a week ahead of the meeting, and if they don't have them in by then, we need to stop accepting. I think we've been. I know, and that's why I'm myself included, we just need to enforce that and we need to tell everyone. The petitions, the other thing, point comes out on the pre-collected petition signatures, people do see that notification from people might not see the sign in the front of the building. So maybe if we make them do that, and a lot of times they're doing 1 or 2 days, we make them responsible for doing it. They have to get the meeting, make them do it earlier and. The neighbors know earlier, and then, so maybe that's it, we keep everything, we move I think right now we have them Wednesday before the meeting. Comments are due Friday, I think petitions might be due Wednesday. Anyways, well, that was done recently, we changed it in the last year or so, but anyways, everyone agree we need to do the Monday before, so the previous. 1 week ahead of the meeting. Yeah. And we're gonna be more strict and say, no more bringing into the meeting, no more, if they're not done a week ahead of time. Okay. 5 PM Monday before. Okay. The outreach, we kind of already discussed that, if they have anything to say about that. In community groups, I think, can't really, I don't know.
I think that's a bigger conversation than the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to require it. And when they required, it became a bigger deal. And so they were constantly, wanting the office to tell them where to go. And how do you say no if you're requiring them to do it and you want them to do it to the right people? Then we would get blamed. And this was really the end. They started blaming the office saying, oh, they didn't tell me the right people, because it wasn't just me, it was anyone in the office. It can't be one person. And it became a blame thing. The office gave us the wrong information and we just got out of the business. And it was at the exec, it was an extensive conversation at the exec. We're getting out of the business. Any group that wants to be notified, just tell us you want to be notified. We'll put you on the website, and it's up to the applicant to find you. But there's no way, legally, there's no way we can force it. We can say we strongly encourage it, and we feel better consider, you can say we will consider in a different manner. can't say it doesn't happen. A lot, the ones that have are lawyers. They all know to do it. They know to do it. But we also, I mean, we're talking about community groups, not residents. They all know to go look on our website, and they do. They do.
So I think that's kind of it for that. If anyone else have anything else that they had thought about? Okay. So I think we're going to move to, I know Dennis Riddle is. Oh, yeah. You want to?
Well, I came here to learn, I had more questions and comments, but you brought up the outreach and speaking as a resident, you know, the community groups and so-called community groups. I mean, I think that the people should be canvassed who are directly affected by business coming in. And that would mean a yes or no, and not under intimidation. If it's our owners group asking for it, many of these people only speak English and representing themselves as a restaurant, it's happened. No mention of liquor or beer or anything. And maybe unloading that to the SLA. They administer it through the mail, whatever. Take it off. Like you say, you're short of people already. That was with you. Thank you. Well, the live bands, of course, the amplified music that we're getting is, I don't think a live band would be any louder. 130 Madison Street, Soccer Club. It looks like they're like renting out for these groups coming last couple of Sundays. Police come in twice. First time they said, well, they got a permit from the city to broadcast publicly for the meeting. But they did ask them, you know, the DJ and all that stuff, touch the music there. Well, they went on till about 8 o'clock. Police came after 6 o'clock. Yeah, and so, you know, live visitors, you know.
That. So unfortunately, as I mentioned, the police are instructed not to give summons, but you do have recourse. The police also don't know their stipulations. So if you email to me or the community board and give us specific information, we will work both with the police and with you, and we will many times give the police stipulations, and they can go in there. So please let us help you on that.
Yeah. Thank you. We're at the intersection of Madison and Market Street.
So
If anyone on Zoom wants to speak or add any comments about anything we just went over tonight, or even for that matter, something else, raise your Zoom hand and we will go ahead and call in.
okay, and there.
Hi, are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so I have a question about something unrelated. So is it possible that outdoor dining hours in the stipulation will change soon, or have they already changed? Because I heard from two operators over the weekend that like their roadway was extended to like 11:30 or midnight. I can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
I think I can hear now. No, I still can't hear.
Yeah, looks like maybe the battery went out on that one. So we have not, as I mentioned earlier today, we have not changed any hours. They are violating their stipulations. The city doesn't care, but the SLA does care. So if you will email me who's doing what, and particularly if somebody at the business told you, it may be somebody I can contact. This is a problem with the outdoor dining, and I would very much, like you to email the specifics.
Okay, great. I sent you an email earlier this week, but if I see this in the future, I will definitely document it and send it to you also.
That's fine. That would be great.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay, anyone else want to raise their Zoom?
Okay, anyone else would like to speak from the public that is here on Zoom? Last chance. Okay, so thank you, Amir, and thank you, Dennis. We have one other quick thing, which I don't know. But we're not voting, that's true. And we're not voting on anything tonight, so we don't. So it doesn't, we don't need it. We do have the district needs statement, which we will also email around. The office has now updated this district needs statement with the current statistics. And she wrote in, there was one thing I think that I saw, and I mentioned it just earlier. Oh, you already fixed it already. Oh, good. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I can quickly through it. So this is our district needs statement, which I think you've been through this last year to understand what it is. And Laura, I know what our district needs statement is. This is the dining and nightlife environment in CD3 had changed significantly since the COVID-19 shutdown that began in March of 2020 and lasted through 2021. While Community District 3 is primarily a residential district, it has one of the highest volumes of light eating and drinking businesses out of any community district in the city. Out of 59 community districts, Community District 3 ranks fourth in the total number of active liquor licenses, according to the New York State Liquor Authority map. The shutdown significantly affected many of the community eating and drinking establishment, as well as other businesses, leaving many vacant storefronts. The committee is now hearing more applications for previously unlicensed locations than pre-COVID. The community is also dealing with the continued effect of outdoor dining that revitalized the community after the shutdown, but now has had unforeseen negative impacts, as demonstrated by the increase in 311 noise complaints, rat index finding, and complaints regarding garbage on the street. CD3 has the second highest number of commercial noise complaints, and then it's 4,735 complaints in the city. CD3 is one of 4 rat mitigation zones in the city and the 4 districts with the most rat complaints. The yearly commercial noise complaints for CD3 have significantly increased between pre-COVID years, fiscal year 2019, and post-COVID regulation years, which is fiscal year 2025. There was a 50% increase in New York Police Department commercial noise complaints, and then see the chart below. So the chart below, there's the second one deleted, Susan. There's 2 on there. It's oh, I see the difference. Yeah. Over a year changing. Yes. Gotcha. That first paragraph, that's what's, and then so after the statistics, it says these conditions have highlighted the ongoing issues associated with allowing numerous licensed businesses within a small residential community. Complaints related to nightlife are difficult to resolve because no single agency has sole jurisdiction over noisy crowds, loud music, traffic congestion, and horn honking outside businesses. Additionally, the city has moved away from enforcement and noted in the correspondence from CB3 and NYPD precinct. City has moved away from, this is a quote directly from is the city has moved away from wanting to cite bars establishments for infractions and such. The New York City Cure Program is a non-enforcement unit that wants to help. We also recommend the New York City Men Program, which will also arrange a mediation between residents and established owners with professional mediators. At the September 16th, 2024 NYPD budget consultation meeting, NYPD was asked if the non-enforcement policy has been effective. The agency reported that there had been a 13% increase in bar noise complaints in the last year in Manhattan South Thanks. And then you updated after this. Okay. And then the SLA, which issues licenses and has jurisdiction over license compliance, has limited investigation and enforcement abilities. Conditions resulting from the saturation of nightlife licenses are often not criminal, but are quality of life violations on city enforcement. The non-enforcement policy dictated to NYPD and DEP should be eliminated to achieve a better balance of education for businesses, quality of life for residents, and enforcement as a consequence of continued noncompliance. Then this is the open restaurant section. The dining out program is an attempt to administer the outdoor dining program consisting of sidewalk cafes and roadbed sheds while addressing problems that occurred during the temporary program. Previous problems were rats, noise, garbage, and badly maintained roadbed shed. The new permanent program has addressed rats, but at the same time created new problems and a tremendous burden for those community boards with the highest number of outdoor dining permits. There is a need for DOT inspection and enforcement. Currently, observation by the community board, complaints from residents, and observations of a walkthrough on June 6, 2025. Board, NYPD, and SLA showed many outdoor dining violations. Most common were lack of compliance with the approved plan, most of the tables on the sidewalk at the curb blocking pedestrian access, and operation after city closing hours of midnight. DOT does not respond to complaints in a timely manner and so far has not managed complaints. Take up two things. And we can think about it. You can think about this. We're not voting on it tonight. If you. Well, yeah. Oh. I mean, I think the only thing that I thought about adding was under the section where you were talking about communities now hearing more previously unlicensed locations and businesses. And I don't really know that this is, we should, what we mentioned earlier is that we're seeing a lot of grade, but I don't know that that's applicable to this. That's what I mean. No need. It's something we're seeing, and I think it's somewhat coming out of COVID and people needing to make more money, but I don't think there's an unmet need there. It's not an enforcement issue. It's not. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so that being said, anything else before we adjourn? Okay, roll call vote. Michael Lavario, Stephen Ballinger, Guillermo Zaviglia, Megan Joy. Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you.